Welcome to Group Dates and Hot Takes. I'm Sampy.
I'm Christy.
Let's talk about The Bachelorette. Hello, everybody. Unfortunately, it looks like the nightmare situation, the nightmare scenario that I predicted at the end of last episode has come to pass. They made 4 episodes out of the last 2 weeks of this season.
Well, you gotta get maximum, advertiser dollars.
It's kind of annoying to me to split all this up when so little has happened this season. It feels like we've seen so little, and they're just continuing to draw this out with not very much payoff for us, the watchers, the fans of this franchise. I cannot believe it. It makes me so angry. But yeah, we are.
Hopefully there's some payoff next week and the week after.
I'm not convinced there will be. Hopefully. So yeah, in the interest of not wasting everybody's time like ABC has been doing lately, we have taken the liberty of combining the 2 episodes from this week into 1 episode. So we're not greedy for those ad dollars. We don't try to stretch things out unnecessarily. So let's get to it, Christy. What do you have for me?
Just one piece of news that Nate more than likely will not be the Bachelor. Reality Steve's reporting he may have turned it down. He's also been spotted with that same girl again.
Well, thank goodness for that.
So at this point, we don't know who it'll be.
Do you think that has to do with all of the stuff swirling around that?
I mean, if I were Nate, I wouldn't want to bring that circus back to national TV.
Yeah, but you're way more of a private person, obviously. Well, I don't know. He did not tell that woman about his daughter for like a year and a half. That's pretty private, but
I don't know. It's probably just better not to be. That'd be a real messy season. So,
yeah, yes, it would. Well, hopefully. Hopefully he has learned how to be a better person. And hopefully we can move on to just, come on. There have been so many, I don't know if I want to say so many, but over the past few seasons, there have been a decent number of men who seem like they're very solid individuals that, as far as we know, aren't bringing so much baggage and drama into things. I want to have a really solid season that isn't plagued by outside controversy and people being total buttholes.
It's been a while since we had a Bachelor season like that. We're about due now.
Is it really so much? Is it really too much to ask? I mean, come on. Well, that's enough of Sampy's high horse for now, but we head to the wonderful country of Mexico.
Yes. I don't know. It certainly looks a lot better than Bachelor in Paradise.
Is an actual legitimate resort that wealthy Americans go to. It's not like the poor person resort that they always film Bachelor in Paradise at. This has buildings.
Yes, no crabs crawling through the bedrooms. There's AC.
Can you imagine if they put Gabby and Rachel through crabs?
So I just feel like because they split 6 fantasy suites over 2 episodes, we just had a lot of bloat.
Oh, there was so much bloat.
And it started off with this very long conversation between Rachel and Gabby, full of generic platitudes.
I noted that down as happy screaming. It's just that very classic. Oh, you're here. I'm here. Like,
cheers to you. Just stuff.
Do they really act like that normally? That's my question.
I would hope not. It doesn't seem real. And so they each have to recap what happened with the hometowns and how they're feeling. You need to rewrite what this week meant because of what happened with Clayton.
It's so funny to me that they're still like, oh man, that Clayton season was a real bummer. I mean, imagine being Clayton right now. Just keep watching you see. Everyone's just like, because, oh man, who even was that? Somebody, and people have said similar things to this, but somebody was like, yeah, what happened to you last season was just so, like something like a real man would never do that to you or something.
Yeah, people are still crapping all over him. Or at least these two are specifically.
Oh man, yeah. Well, Gabby wants to, still have that chance to chase each other around naked. Like you want to have the fun, but you got to have those really deep, serious conversations as well. She's not content just to be silly here.
Yep, we learned that from this convo, and not much else.
Yeah, pretty much that, and they just still feel so hurt by Clayton that they're having to bring it into this season, despite having their own seasons, which is like the best sort of consolation you can get from that whole situation. But I digress. Let's get into the fantasy suite, shall we? We only had what?
We had 4
for this episode. Yeah, well,
we start with Eric.
Do we really start with Eric though? Is this the actual order that they happened in? Do you know?
I don't know if they aired them out of order or not, but at least they showed us Eric first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this was really just make out time. Pretty much.
Almost entirely.
I mean, they were kissing at the beginning, they were kissing in the middle, they were kissing in the end. I don't want to spoil the number of kisses that I have from this week, these 2 episodes, but it's a lot. Let me just say that. Yeah, so they headed to a cenote, which there are a lot of in Mexico, and they're quite fun, reservoirs of water essentially, and they got to play around, and I don't know. Tell me what you thought about the jumping off of the platform into the cenote, because that was ridiculous to me.
Yeah, like they started off like at the lower level and everything's fine, but then as they eventually made their way to the very top, it's like all of a sudden Gabby doesn't want to jump, which I wouldn't have done any of the jumps probably. Maybe just the bottom one.
Well, you just don't like water too, so.
Yeah, and so she's like, this jump is like falling in love. I hate when they like equate something in the date to love.
They try to draw all these extended metaphors to everything when it's just like,
come on.
This isn't what this means.
No. But
yeah, this quote from her after, sort of as they're having a conversation towards the end, there on the edge of the cenote. And this is a quote. I just want to say that I'm not making this up. I just want to crawl inside of you.
What does that mean?
Oh, that's a little...
It's like a hug isn't enough. You need to be hugging him from the inside.
That's a little scary.
Oh, man. Yeah, I noted that they don't really discuss anything. They just mention how great of a time they're having, and then it's just more making out.
Right. I mean, maybe they had more conversation here and we just didn't see it, but yeah, nothing much.
Yeah, just lots of kissing.
Mm-hmm. What about the evening portion?
Well, at night, we see her wearing that yellow dress she was going to wear in that group date that got canceled after Logan got COVID.
Got COVID in air quotes.
I mean, I did read like some recap of a podcast he was on. He said he had a positive COVID test and that luckily no one else got it. I just find that so hard to believe.
How much was he paid to say that? That's my question.
But yes, the dress finally makes its real appearance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guess his family really liked her, which we saw last week, and she seems to be all in.
Yeah, this was a pretty, I thought, pretty standard fantasy suite that went well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing too crazy at dinner.
No, I mean, she does open up about her childhood a little bit, talking about how her parents had separated super early and her dad had moved away and just all the problems with her mom where she's, I guess, she's never really said this specifically, but it seems like she and her mom are kind of estranged.
Yes. I think she said she's not really a part of her life right now.
Right. Which, yeah, she likes him an awful lot.
Yep, and Eric also told her he is in love with her.
Yeah.
Which it's that time you have to say it.
I always crack up when I see this happen because they have to. No matter what, they have to. Otherwise, it's bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Exactly.
Time. So we did get a little bit of a deviation from that later, but we'll get to that.
But obviously, he says yes to the fantasy suite card.
Uh-huh. And can I just say here, as an aside, we keep getting these cuts to Tino this week where he's just being a little baby. That's just, I really hate when they do this. When they just, the episode is progressing, and they just keep cutting to whomever it is, just constantly freaking out and being like, oh my goodness, I can't believe the lead is having fantasy suites with other people, and like,
so
does that
dumb.
mean everything is a lie and I don't mean anything to them, and it's just constant.
This is not the first season of this show. Like, what excuse do you have at this point for not knowing how the show works?
Right. I don't appreciate that from a show timeline perspective. It's like, it doesn't,
just cutting into the date, you mean?
Right. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
Like obviously, it's not fun for the other people to wait around, but why even bother showing that to us? It is more annoying than anything.
It doesn't make sense narratively because it kind of breaks up the momentum of the date we're supposed to be watching.
Right, and it just makes me feel like whoever that person is just shouldn't even move forward. It's like, it annoys me so much that it ruins whatever perspective I may have had on them previously, where it's just like, go home. I don't even care about you anymore. That's how I view it. But yeah, so it seems to have gone well because they get up together the next morning.
Definitely had sex vibes, in my opinion.
Yes.
We see them cooking breakfast. Gabby pulls out a new pair of pajamas to wear. I'm assuming because it had like 1,000 wrinkles in it.
The types of things Christy notices. Yeah, it was pretty wrinkly, and they had a pretty extended sort of goodbye outside.
Yes, this was odd. Normally it's just a quick like goodbye, but that she like hugged him for forever. We see in her ITM she wanted to say I love you but wants to save it, which is a smart thing to do, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
She told him to be patient, which if you're hearing that from the lead, that should be a clue to you. This is going well for me. You shouldn't need to be doubting at this point.
You shouldn't, but that doesn't mean you won't. We will definitely see Eric freaking out later.
100%.
But in the meantime, let's go to Rachel and Avon's date.
Yeah, this was also a pretty standard date where you just go on a yacht, you lay down and talk and make out.
Yeah, it feels weird to me that we had so much screen time this week with the 2 episodes, and it still feels like nothing happened.
I think that's also because on fantasy suite dates during the daytime, there's not usually much of anything important that happens. It's the same conversations about, I can really see myself with you, falling in love, really love how things are going between, like there's just not, like the activities themselves aren't usually super memorable either.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty standard with Avon, I think.
Yeah, it seemed like a nice day though, lounging in the sun, playing in the water,
Yeah, I was
all that jazz.
a little confused by Rachel's bikini. It looked like a sports bra to me.
Yeah, well, they had to black bar Gabby's at the previous.
Yeah, well, she was
date.
wearing an actual bikini.
Can't have that on national television.
I guess not.
I wonder if, I don't know. It just seemed like it would be weird for them to have battery packs or mic packs really there because of the water.
Yeah, I did notice that the audio from Gabby and Eric when they were in the water was different. So I think they were probably using some other kind of mic.
Oh yeah, they had a boom mic over the single
Yeah, it was
tape.
very echoey.
They had one sound guy dangled off by his ankles with another sound guy holding him as he's trying to get the boom as close to them as possible without getting it in the shot. Pretty standard. We take a little intermission for Jesse to check in on Lil Baby Tino.
Yeah, what was that?
That's what I call him now. Lil Baby Tino.
I mean, he's earning it so far. Like, why did Jesse need to talk with him? It just seemed so unnecessary.
Because they wanted to make this a thing.
I feel like every time he came on screen, I was like liking him less and less.
Well, that's been a trend since was it last week? Or actually, I think it was even
week before
that when you had the whole situation with what's his face?
Ethan,
yes. Yeah. His stock with me has been plunging over the past few weeks, and I don't know if they're throwing so much at this because they're trying to foreshadow what's going to happen next week, and he's going to be a major idiot. I mean, they've been trying to build that up of like, oh, something crazy is going to happen. Ugh. So I don't know if it's part of that, but it is super annoying. I don't want to see Little Baby Tino. Any comments there?
No, I was just annoyed by the segment. I just thought it was a waste of time.
Yeah, I just the only other thing I said was that Jesse leaves after making things worse.
I don't even remember what he told him.
I mean, really just giving him a platform to spiral further is really the only thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's keep flying along.
At nighttime with Avon, she asked, can he see himself getting engaged in 2 weeks? Mm-hmm. Which, it's not 2 weeks. We heard later on it was a week, so I'm not sure why we're hearing 2 different time slots there, but he says he can.
Oh, yeah. Look.
I mean, what else are you going to say?
Look, he's right before a potential overnight. He is definitely he's definitely ready to propose. For sure.
Yes.
Otherwise, he goes home.
She also says love was carelessly thrown around on my last journey. More shade at Clayton.
Oh, constant Clayton shade.
And he assures her that's not the case.
No.
She says she's falling in love with him.
Oh, so nice.
And she truly means it.
I always love it when they have to pile stuff like that. No, it's not the normal lies that I tell. This is real. This is for real.
So they go to the fantasy suites. There's fireworks.
Kissing fireworks. More specifically. Though we sadly didn't get the normal forlorn shot of one of the other contestants being like, "Oh no. Oh. Fireworks."
Well, it should have been Tino. A shot of Tino.
Yes, that would have made a lot of sense. Yeah.
So the next morning, we hear that Avon is the full package.
I don't want to hear that. That's very sexual. Said very suggestively. I don't like that.
Well, it happened.
Yes, I know. Yet another morning after where we're like, I think they smashed.
Yeah, it was less obvious with this one to me compared to Gabby and Eric, but probably.
Boy. Well, should we talk about Lil Baby Tino and his date? Do you have anything else for Avon?
No, nothing else on Avon. I guess I didn't realize that I did have some stuff about Jesse with Tino, but...
Oh, well, tell us.
It wasn't much more than what we had said. I just didn't realize. He said this waiting game is dog-wrenching.
What? You mean gut-wrenching?
Maybe.
What is dog-wrenching?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But yes, he's very impatient.
Uh-huh. I have very little on the Tino date.
Yeah, they go horseback riding. Can't control his horse.
That was pretty funny. I will admit. The horse just heads off in the wrong direction, and he's trying to control it, trying to get it back.
Animals are like the one thing that producers can't control on this show.
No, they try their best, but they usually fail, which is good for us because it's hilarious. Yeah, I think between his spiraling behavior and the issues with his family, to use a Bachelor Nation term, I just think their relationship hasn't progressed enough compared to the relationships with the other guys.
I mean, the relationship between the two of them has, but all this other outside stuff is tanking it. Because Rachel just keeps talking about the hometown.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is like it's a big deal. The family situation is a big deal for her.
Yes.
Like she keeps talking about how she needs to address it. And deal with it. So it's a big, I don't know. At one point he seemed like the favorite. Now not so much.
Well, at dinner, like she brings up the family stuff again, and he basically is like, yeah, my parents don't really understand this whole process and the timeline, but don't worry, like they won't be mad if I get engaged to you.
His dad will definitely be enraged.
Yes.
Enraged if engaged. There you go.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's really nothing else he can say at this point though, but try to convince her.
Right. That is very true. I mean, there's a lot of the typical sort of hometown stuff with just like, oh, I love you too, like all of that stuff, but with this undertone of like, this isn't gonna work out.
Yeah, the vibe between them is a bit weird at the moment, even though, like you said, she says I love you, which seems early to me.
Because I wanted to ask you about this, if you've seen anything, heard anything, but we do not see a morning after with them. There's no footage.
Weird. Yeah.
So what the frick happened here?
I mean, we've seen that, like with Matt and Rachel, they didn't show their morning after. So I don't know. Every once in a while that happens. I'm not sure.
You don't have any dirt for us?
I mean,
what a pity.
It seems he seemed to be in good spirits afterwards, though. So we didn't hear anything.
Weird.
So
weird.
very strange.
Weird. Well, let's keep on cracking. We're almost to the end of part 1 here, but we got to finish this off.
Next is Johnny.
Not really finish it off because we have some more drama to discuss, but kind of finish it off with good old Johnny,
who has no business being here at all.
Do you get the impression that this season turned out the way that it did because they lost too many men early?
No, I think it's because they had, like, I don't know, half the amount of one-on-one dates they should have had. And so they didn't really get to know these people. And so now we're here at Fantasy Suites with Johnny, who just isn't there, isn't ready. So
he hasn't been there or ready.
This should not have been an option for her.
That's sad.
He says the end result scares him. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, it never ceases to amaze me how many people come on this show completely knowing what the show is about and how the show goes, and somehow make it long enough to have this moment where they're like, oh, but like, I'm not ready for this. How are you not ready for this?
I don't understand.
It makes no sense.
I mean, this date was over almost as soon as it started. They were just on the beach, and he's like, this is a hard thing to decide. You should get everything you want. I can see myself falling in love. Like, you are so far behind everyone else.
Yeah, it really fizzles. It fizzles real fast.
Yeah, this was a womp womp.
I mean, they did get to go out on another boat, so they got a little bit of nice time moment before then hanging out on the beach, where really Gabby just wants answers from him because she has not gotten much of anything from him at all, and he is not ready.
Not in the least.
Also, so she like tells him, oh, so like this is the end. Or I think he was like, oh, so is this the end? She's like, yeah. And so she goes to walk away, and he said something about like, oh, that could have been my wife, or like something to that effect. Do you remember this? And she kind of turned around and was like, what? Like, what?
I think I missed that.
Oh, it was so weird. It's like, if you're viewing her like that, why did you act like an idiot? I don't understand these people. Where do they find these people? They're so weird.
I think some of these people just want to be on TV. And like, before he was actually eliminated, the Bachelor in Paradise promo spoiled that he was in paradise. So even if you thought they had a chance.
I mean, I feel like you had to be living under a rock with the social skills of Tyler's family in order to not realize that he was not making it to the end.
Oh yeah, just very obvious.
Apologies, Tyler's family, but that was ridiculous that you didn't know that he that what him coming alone meant. But yeah, oh boy. Well,
so then we have this very strange ending to the episode where Gabby gets a note like, "Meet me at whatever."
Yes, these are always very mysterious. Like, meet me at the clock tower at midnight.
Yeah. And so she goes there with Eric and...
Because Eric sent the note. Well,
yes. And this didn't make any sense why Eric did this. I don't know if a producer convinced him to, but he brings up stuff they talked about in private.
I would guess that it was producer influenced, but it's hard to tell because essentially this was just a rehash for us of some stuff they talked about.
Yeah,
with the cameras off.
Yeah, he's having a hard time because she's having fantasy suites with other people, and he feels like she's cheating on him. It's just, you know how the show works. You watched Clayton's season.
Mm-hmm.
He's having a hard time pretending he's cool with everything, and she doesn't want to have to defend herself. Feels like he's testing her. This was just like a misfire.
Yeah.
On his part. Like, this accomplishes nothing, especially since you guys already discussed this in private.
Right, and so I feel like it's kind of a two-edged thing, because on the one hand, it's kind of weird and feels, I don't know if it's like self-serving or just, it feels very strange to bring that out for a rehash when it's something that, like, it was private.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're just essentially just rehashing it, just makes it public. It doesn't accomplish anything.
Yeah, except to maybe like embarrass her. Like,
maybe, but then it also, because of that, it makes her feel pressured and makes her question things. So it's like on two counts, it's just very stupid. And he's like, it just didn't go how I was intending it for her to go.
Yeah, and it like ends on a cliffhanger there, and then
like, can we really go on after this horrible moment?
And so then the next night we get the resolution to that, where he realized he messed up, and he just says he's in love and terrified of losing her. It was a moment of insecurity, and he's really sorry. And so it's like sort of left hanging where like they're making out, but also Gabby is still sort of like unnerved by the whole thing.
Right, because she had a conversation there with Jesse about it, and just feeling like, you know, she was being pressured into a decision, and kind of that she needs space, which doesn't sound like a good thing.
At the time, yeah, that's what I thought too.
No, it does not sound good. Oh boy, hopefully that resolves itself well. Now we head into the train wreck of the bulk of episode 2.
Yes, with Jason.
Oh man, Jason. Give me your impressions, sort of overall before this of Jason, because
he seemed like someone who didn't belong on this show. That's kind of what I've always thought, because even at the beginning he was
just
talking
because of his
about
introversion.
Yeah, just his general like uncomfortableness with the whole process. He's very quiet, kind of deer in the headlights kind of look sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that continues.
Yeah, it did. I don't think I really predicted it would end this way, the way it did.
I know, because this was out of the norm, out of the parameters for a typical fantasy suite, but
yeah,
they got to play tennis.
I'm sure you enjoyed that.
I was very jealous. It's been a minute since I've played tennis.
Is it normal to have a grass field?
Not particular. I mean, it is a type of tennis court.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, I would guess from a maintenance perspective, it's kind of annoying, and that's why most courts are just, asphalt or whatever. Yeah. So I guess he played tennis in college. I don't know how good he was, so he had to teach her how to play tennis.
And then all this time there was the through line of him like, I need to tell her I'm not ready to get engaged. So it's like doom and gloom the whole time.
I know. Gabby's just waltzing around, hitting the ball back and forth, all happy and thinking this is going well. And in the meantime, he's just ITM voiceover. Yeah, I just don't think this can work.
Yeah, so at dinner, it's time to lay down the hammer.
No.
And so they always like couch it in like these like compliments with it before they like drop the bomb.
You're so amazing. You're beautiful. You're highly intelligent. You're like the best woman I've ever met. Any man would be so just privileged to be with you. And I'm not ready to make a commitment, and I'm super uncomfortable with the fakeness of the show and all of the cameras and microphones, and it feels super inauthentic. That's basically how these things go.
Yeah, he's not going to be ready in another 7 days. So Gabby's like, can you see me with you in the future? And Jason's like, well, I don't fully know who you are. You don't fully know me. It's hard to tell when we're in this bubble, which is true. It's just like,
yeah, it is true, but you have to, and I think she even said something about this, like buying into the, like, the what
hopeless
is the
romanticism.
Hopeless
is what she
romanticism. Said. Yeah, but that's very true though. In order to make it work, you do have to buy into that. Like, that's the premise of the show. That over these 8 weeks or whatever it is of filming, that like you have to at least act like you buy into that idea that you could fall in love with this person, beat out all these other people, and end up engaged at the end of it. Like, that is true.
Jason is more of a realist, though, and he says hard to feel at ease with the cameras. I don't think he ever really got over that hurdle.
No, he did not.
Which is why he should have left early on. Instead of dragging it out to this point where it's like too late.
Ugh.
And so Abby gets up at this point because she got to go talk to her producer now, where she says, I just wanted him to play along for just a second, which is sad.
That is a little sad. But what you gonna do? I mean, her time is crumbling here. I mean, she had Eric, Johnny, and Jason. Eric is on shaky ground. Johnny was sent home. Now Jason doesn't want commitment. She could end up alone at the end of this.
Yep, and so I guess at this point Jason goes to find her and is like, I don't want to like give up on this. Maybe in real life, if we spend time together, we can get to that point. We have a unique connection. And then they make out.
Ugh.
I didn't see this turn coming. I thought once he said not ready to get engaged, well, that's it. But somehow he weasels his way back in, and they go sit back down, and he's like, yeah, being off camera would really help the situation.
Would it? Would it?
And she asked if he wants to spend the rest of the night. She asked it like very like cautiously, and he says yes. So, I don't know. I was just very surprised by this turn of events.
Yeah, so they head to the fantasy suite. I wrote here that I just could not believe she took him on the overnight after all of
I
this.
know. Well, then we see the next morning, well, things did not go well, which is not the least bit surprising after what happened the night before.
No, it cuts to her. She's out sort of on this balcony type thing by herself. Her face is red, like she's been crying. It's just very, very different than your normal morning after.
Yes, they're not even together.
No.
So she said they talked in circles. I guess he said they are not meant to be, which that's kind of a 180 from what he was saying the night before.
Yeah.
So this season more than any, I would have liked to have seen the footage from overnights. Because what was said? What happened?
I mean, she was just saying that I don't know how it has happened, but just that he couldn't see them happening in real life, and all this just, oh well, would we really work in the real outside world, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
What?
It's just very confusing. She goes and talks to him, and Jason's like, yeah, this is tough for me. It's like, okay, Jason.
I also noted down where he was saying that he needed time to figure out that it wouldn't work for him. I just wrote several question marks here.
That's a very strange statement.
What is wrong with you? Why are you on this show?
Yeah, he's getting a bit of a villain edit here. What are you doing? And he's like, you're an amazing person. And Gabby's like, yeah, that doesn't lessen the blow.
Yeah, it's again just this sort of trying to be, oh, it's not you, it's me kind of nonsense that happens. I did feel really bad for her here.
Yeah, because she was like, why you were treading so lightly, afraid of hurting me. You should have told me much sooner. And then Jason's like, well, I got that clarity when we were in the fantasy suite. What about that all of a sudden gave you that clarity? And Gabby's like, I want you to realize I've been led on. There's nothing else left to say.
Very, very true. Amen to that, Gabby. I continue as much as, and I'm about to complain about it, but as much as I do complain about her, I do think that she's pretty solid. And not afraid to say things like that. A lot of people on these shows really dance around this stuff, but she's been very specific. Yeah, you led me on. That's the reality of it.
She's very direct,
and I appreciate that. In a lead. What?
Then we had another montage of "Am I Too Broken?"
Right.
See, it's the guy's fault though. It's not her. There's no issue with her. It's just these guys just aren't.
Right, exactly.
Ready.
And that's been my whole point this entire season, when she spirals like this, this did kind of break my heart, where as she was crying there, she said, I've tried so hard not to be reckless with other people, and he was reckless with me. Oh,
yeah.
That one cuts deep.
Jason goofed up there at the end.
And I don't want to be too terrible here, but I'm just going to say it. Can you imagine just the quality season we could have had if Gabby was the sole Bachelorette?
I've thought about that before too.
No shade intended towards Rachel. It's just they tried too hard with this split concept, and I feel like we could have had the best Bachelorette season in a long time.
Yeah, there are
if
other.
It had just been her.
There are other guys she could have gotten to know better. Maybe that were on Rachel's side.
Right, or even different people who would have been cast if if it was just a
Possibly.
solo season. Like, yeah, it just, I mean, I hope that she gets what she wants out of this, but that does make me, it's all, throughout the season, I've just always been like, well, like, would that idiot guy have been in this position to create this chaos if she had been in her own season with people who actually gave a crap, you know, and where she could have the time to know some of these guys a little bit more. I don't know. That's just my musings here. We really love Gabby here on this show. Rachel's okay. Yeah, there you go. Anything? Do you have anything else to say about this, or you want to talk about anything more with this man?
No, I think Jason just didn't handle that well at all.
No, he screwed up big time. Big
Yeah,
time.
just terrible timing with all of that.
Ugh.
So next is Zach with Rachel.
Mm-hmm. So, Christy, you know what I'm going to ask you?
Yes.
How do you feel about Rachel's dress?
It's maybe the worst dress of the season. I don't understand why, one, that was an option that Carrie Fettman provided, and two, why she picked it off the rack. It's just a terrible pattern, terrible color, terrible style. I didn't like anything about it.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that with us. Oh, yeah, so do you feel better now that you've gotten that off your chest? Okay, excellent. Yeah, so their date, they I guess it was you could maybe call it like a tiki bar or something like that, to do a little tequila sipping.
Yep, somehow the conversation of like talking really loud comes up, and he says he's never raised his voice in an argument.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Yeah, just
He's
kind of
never-
a random fun fact.
Right. I mean, I don't know if you've ever raised your voice in your entire life.
Not really.
One day I'm gonna get you to yell on the podcast for the first time, and everyone is gonna love it. Yeah, things got very silly here. I mean, he was, and I didn't really see the connection. I think they just sort of maybe lose part of their brain when their brains are combined, sort of situation. Because I didn't know how they got from him never raising his voice in an argument to him then just talking in a high-pitched voice.
I think she dared him or said that, can you try? I don't know how.
Right.
Why,
Can you
though?
try? But then he does a high-pitched voice, not a louder voice. They were
It was
talking,
very funny,
They were talking
though.
about volume there, not pitch.
Hey, well, they were drinking too, so.
Yeah, but it seemed like they just had a single sip of tequila. The guy was like, you kiss it, and so they like take a little baby sip. I don't know, very strange to me.
And then they eat some grasshoppers. She said it tastes like a chip. I don't believe her.
I mean, I've heard decent things about grasshoppers as a protein source.
And they danced to a mariachi band.
What a good old standby for this season, dancing in a city square to music. They've done that like 7 times.
Every city they go to, basically.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, and there was also a tarot card reader.
Yeah, they keep bringing in these tarot card people. Not totally sure why.
It adds nothing to the show.
No, it's just very much, and this lady was doing her reading in Spanish, but just a lot of, like, Oh, Rachel, you're thinking so much about the past, but the past is in the past. You should worry about the future. And this man is great. Like,
Straight from the producer's script.
yep. I wonder how these tarot readers feel about selling out their magical profession.
I guess if the money is good.
Hey, you don't want to mess around with magic, okay? Yeah, I love how she then. Well, first of all, she was talking separately about how she's under a lot of pressure here in this situation, but then in the evening portion, she asks him like what he thought of the tarot card reading.
I loved his response. He's like, well, I liked what she said.
What do you think? What a great deflection there. Oh, very, very funny.
And so she's basically telling him, like, I'm trying not to let the past, like, define, like, this week. And, like, this is different now. And you make me feel so safe. And then Zach says that what Clayton did is the worst thing a man can do.
Yes, that's what I was talking about earlier.
Really? Worst?
I'm pretty sure Nate would have something to say about that. Though maybe what Nate did was kind of similar, actually, now that I think about it.
I mean, what Clayton did wasn't great, but there are far worse behaviors men can do.
Yes. That's very true.
So they go to the fantasy suite.
Which, can I just say, we have this voiceover about how nothing can change. and I wrote after that. So after that VO dash, everything is going to change. Obviously, LOL.
Yep. They even had like this cheesy like romantic song playing as they went to this fantasy suite. Only to follow it up with the most awkward morning after.
Oh, it was so
of
weird.
All time. Like they're just sitting there talking about orange juice. Like, oh, really freshly squeezed here.
Right, and then just the whole thing where they kept talking about, oh, like, yeah, I mean, it's really great that we gained clarity. Like actually in the speech, putting like brackets around it.
Yeah, and all the tough conversations. Did you notice his grimace too?
Yeah.
As they were talking, like it was real weird.
Yeah. He was fairly disenchanted after this date. Or after this overnight, more specifically.
So then we learn, after he leaves, that it was not the night he expected. They had conversations about religion and politics, and then Rachel's like, oh, you might not be ready. And she's got more and more adamant about it, making him second guess things. So then Dak talks with Jesse, and we get more details. Specifically, she's concerned about his age. He's 25. She's 26.
Isn't she only like 2 or 3 months older than him?
Yeah, that is complete BS. And he also said she wasn't showing her true self. It was the most inauthentic conversation he'd ever had. Another one where I would have liked to have seen the footage.
Yeah,
of this.
Yeah, he said later something about how he thought their conversation was inauthentic, like they were strangers.
I know. So, like, I know you've like talked about like how Rachel is on the show and like her speech patterns and stuff. So I wonder if like in the fantasy suite, like she just drops all of that, and then like the real Rachel comes out, which is what he's referring to.
And she doesn't talk about the Valley Girl. That drives me crazy.
So, yeah, Rachel's not looking super great at the moment here.
No, she's not. Especially since look, she's the lead. She can do what she wants, obviously. She's not obligated to like these people. She's not obligated to give roses to these people. But it does feel weird when something like this happens. It feels super weird when something like this happens because it's so obviously a nonsense thing.
Yeah, the age thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it really is 2 or 3 months. Like, and I say stuff about this in real life, but like he's 25. His prefrontal cortex has finally fully developed and matured, and he should be good to go. Like,
I mean, he doesn't seem like a super immature guy from what we've seen.
I mean, he's definitely silly, and maybe that's part of it. But she's been fully accepting of that and gone along with all of that.
Yeah, like what was the
silliness.
point of bringing him to fantasy suites only to be like, well, you're too young? Like that, his age, you've known his age. I really think she's just sabotaging things with Zach so she can be with Tino.
Really?
Like, let's just like let Zach down easy and with a terrible excuse.
But that's not letting him down easy though. That's letting him down in like the worst way possible.
Well, I don't think it was a good decision on her part, but that's probably what she thought. Because otherwise, that excuse makes no sense.
It really doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense to just turn on him at the last minute.
No. I left this date with a bit of a bad taste in my mouth about Rachel.
Yeah, same.
Not fun. You know, we do also see here a moment of Tino at some point where he is so super confident about how his overnight went. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you may be right. It makes no sense that she would do that versus just being like, hey, like, I like you, but I like somebody else more.
Yeah, why not just eliminate him at the rose ceremony like normal?
Well, maybe she's probably planning on doing that, but she created a whole mess of drama.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Besides that, but yeah, he hopefully he was able to process enough things. Talking about Zach, of course, with therapist Jesse here. Jesse really earning his paycheck this episode,
offering nothing as usual.
Hey, he's there to host, okay? He doesn't need good advice.
So at this point, we go back to Gabby, who only has Eric left. So it was like sort of set up in the ITMs, like maybe she might send him home, but
right, it really did.
But that is not at all what happened.
Right, even though I wrote down she goes to Eric with the intention of breaking up with him? ?
And so she gives this speech about how she needed alone time with Jason to realize what she deserves, and that I found that confusing. First off,
I guess basically that with the other guys, and in particular what went down with Jason, because that was especially bad, that she realized what she deserved in a relationship. And so
yeah. She also says it's hard to take things at face value. I guess maybe what Eric has been telling her all along, but she finally decided to accept it.
Right. She had this moment where she said it's hard to ask for what I want, but with you I don't have to ask, essentially.
Yeah.
And then this you're the only one left. I love you. Making sure you get over you're the only one left real quick.
Yeah, so I guess they're together.
It seems like it. I don't. It's
this whole romantic moment. It's like, I guess I don't know. They showed drama next week though, so I don't know what's happening there.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to know if that's really drama on her side or if they're just keeping her around because of Rachel's drama. It was hard to get a good read on that from the promo because they've of course tried to, as much as possible, show only shots of single people. So it's like if it's Rachel sobbing about something, it's close up on her, so you have no context, of course.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I just Tino so freaking confident.
I know. He rolled up to the rose ceremony at the end just all like smug. I liked him even less after that.
That's been a bit of a trend. But yeah, so first of all, so Jesse was there greeting everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Tina's like, my fantasy suite went flawlessly. Like, let me just say, it was perfect.
I know, with this like grin on his face too. I'm not a fan at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we continue. Yeah, Zach just wants to pull her aside before the rose ceremony to talk to her. I guess wanting to see if things can be salvaged.
I guess we kind of end on a cliffhanger with. We don't see what he tells her. I guess we'll have to wait for next week.
Yes.
And then
because they did show it. Like, they showed a shot of them, but they didn't include the audio. It was from Avon and Tino's perspective.
Yeah, and then we have the weirdest ending ever. With, like, Jesse, I guess, backstage at the Bachelor set.
I don't think he was actually backstage.
I couldn't tell where that was.
It seemed like it was maybe he was actually where they filmed stuff, and what it looked like is they had all these pieces of, equipment and chairs and stuff. It looked like maybe he was, like, they were in the process of building the set, essentially.
Yeah, but, like, what happens next week is so dramatic that we can't show you anymore tonight.
Yeah.
It's like, what was the point of this? They could have just ended the episode like normal and been like, coming up next week, and here's the preview.
Yeah, it really doesn't change anything besides the fact that they're just really... and he said as much. He said that this is the most dramatic ending of The Bachelorette in Bachelorette history. So they're trying to really sell this and hype this up that nobody will possibly see this coming, etc., etc. So that's really the only reason for adding that. There's no other point. No other point.
Well, I guess there's more drama. I mean, we do see in the preview, there's a shot of Rachel where she says, "I want an answer for why you did what you did." And it looked like she was outside of a house. It didn't look like it was in Mexico to me.
Oh, boy.
So,
oh, boy.
I'm guessing there's a reason why we have 2 more episodes.
Yeah. Sadly, the four episode prediction was correct. And here we are. It's just hard for me to imagine that there's enough stuff left to fill out 2 episodes.
I mean, I'm sure there will be some bloat because there'll be like the live segments.
Yeah, and I know. Yeah, they do have they have the after the final rose. So I guess my question, and you may not know this, but because typically their last episode and the after the final rose are combined, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, AFR is usually just right after.
Right. So,
but we have technically 6 guys to have hot seats with, plus all the footage from Mexico. So I'm sure they'll find a way to fill it, plus whatever drama.
Yeah, this is gonna be a disaster. I love too how in the previews, and we don't know what happens with Gabby and Eric if they combust, but I did find it funny that they kept her around to like be moral support for Rachel based on the previews. It's like you couldn't just let Gabby go and be happy.
Well, no, she hasn't gotten proposed to yet.
They haven't flown in our favorite ancient mummy, Neil Lane, with his bag full of rings.
Well, yeah. Plus, they have to like do the meet the family stuff.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
I guess I
the
forgot.
final two guys usually meet the lead's parents. So
I forgot about that.
yeah, there's enough stuff left.
Okay, well, hopefully that's interesting.
I think it will be.
Christy is basically vibrating here in her seat. She is so excited for the end of the season and the drama that's going to unfold. I can barely see. It's like watching the Flash TV show with this super, super fast vibration of movement. That's how Christy is right now. She is so excited.
Should be fun. You know I love drama.
Christy loves drama, everyone. That is what she lives for. That is why this podcast exists.